And then we turn to the La Brea tar pits. The tar pits start to bubble, and this is where it really just hits the fan.
Goes off the rails.
Volcano erupts.
There's also newscasters on the scene with their car phones, and they're reporting everything live. And this guy is freaking out.
Losing it.
The downed fire truck is still on its side. Injured firefighters desperately in need of medical help. Rescue personnel are starting to arrive.
It's like, you're not helping. You're stressing everybody out.
Look at these brave firefighters. Oh, one of them's dying.
Oh, the humanity. What is poppin', all you popcorns in the bucket? I am Jimmy Popcorn, and I'm with the corn dog himself, Nick Justice.
I'm the corn dog, man, and there's just nothing you could do to change that.
Are you the corn dog man, or are you the corn dog, man?
I'm the corn dog, man. I don't really want to see what a corn dog man looks like.
A corn dog with legs and arms.
That's my nightmares.
Welcome in. It's a hot one today, and I'm not talking about the lack of AC in my duplex. I'm talking about the movie we are going to review this week.
Some may call it explosive, James.
Some may call it a bomb. We don't, because it didn't financially bomb, but it's a little iffy with the critics. But how'd we find out about this flick that we're about to watch? I think you brought this to the table.
I do not believe I brought this to the table, James.
You did.
I've never heard of this movie.
You did. Literally. We were putting season 1 together, and you added this to our watch list.
Then it must have just come from a list, right? Because the spirit of this podcast is to find those obscure movies that have been lost to time because they just weren't good enough, or they bombed or flopped. And so we did some research before we ever recorded our first podcast and found some of these obscure movies. And this one must have just been sitting somewhere on a list.
We're watching the movie Volcano from 1997. This is directed by Mick Jackson, who doesn't really have any recognizable projects. The only one I stumbled upon that I've actually heard of was The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston.
Yeah, 1992 is The Bodyguard. And other than that, I didn't really see much else.
He must have ties to Whitney Houston because I believe he directed a couple music videos.
That would make sense.
Not Michael Jackson. This is Mick Jackson. A Mick Jackson joint. This movie stars Tommy Lee Jones and Hetch, a young Don Cheadle with hair, and Gabby Hoffman, not related to Dustin.
I feel like there's a lot of Hoffmans who float around Hollywood.
Should call it Hoffwood, am I right? This had a $90 million budget, and it did go on to gross $122 million. Did pretty well.
I didn't look it up, so I might be speaking out of my ass here, but 1997 does not ring any bell as far as a good year of movies. So
I want to say Men in Black came out, right?
Well, that would just help this movie because it's just a Tommy Lee Jones joint. So maybe he was at the height of his 90s powers.
Oh, no. We had Spawn also come out in 97. Oh, yeah. No, remember we had a whole conversation about CGI in 97 after we watched Spawn.
Oh, you're right. That was 97.
Because you actually brought up Men in Black. And I think we actually shouted out Flubber, which also had some pretty decent CGI.
So I was speaking out of my ass. 97 did have a few good ones.
And of course, Shaq's Steel came out in 97. And Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which we discussed in our video game movies and shows episode. Oh, and Face Off and Con Air. Dude, what are you talking about?
This was the golden year for cinema.
This was
what you're telling me.
This was the year for cinema. Liar, liar.
Okay.
Here's Volcano. Finally showed up. There was also The Lost World Jurassic Park, which was Air Force One, Anaconda, Mouse Hunt with what's that guy's name? Timon from he's the Broadway guy. Nathan Lane.
There you go.
I didn't even look it up. I just was staring at his face until it came to me. Dude, 97 was on fire. Batman and Robin.
Okay, well that's tough.
Air Bud. Okay. Speed 2, Cruise Control. No. That's where we're going to draw the line.
From here on out, 1997 will be known as the golden year of cinema.
So 97, aka the greatest year for movies, except for Spawn, is when this movie came out. And maybe that makes a little bit more sense of why it was lost to time, because I never heard of this movie. And I don't think you did either.
I had not. I'm still confused how it made 122 million box office in the year.
Is that really that good?
With all those other...
I mean, it's a positive return, but is that a good return?
We can go ahead and compare it to...
Last week's episode of Big Fat Liar, that had a 353% return, whereas this one only has 136.
As far as the percentage goes, the people don't care about that. They just care about the gross sales. You know, how many people actually sat down in a theater to watch it.
Well, we sat down in front of our television screens to watch it this week, and I can't wait to dive into this one. Head first into some boiling ass molten lava.
Oh boy.
I'm going to read this log line so we can clue in the audience of what we went through. A volcano erupts in downtown Los Angeles, and a city official and a seismologist try to stop its inevitable flow through the city.
That's pretty much it.
Keyword inevitable.
I am inevitable.
But these guys aren't going down without a fight.
No.
And we're not going to know how they do that until we jump into plot talk.
Plot talk!
All right, we do get light instructions, kind of like a heads up. It just says that the Office of Emergency Management has complete control, the director, of all city resources when there's a national crisis. There's just a disaster. And apparently this one person has control of fire, police, public works, everything.
Yeah, they're just kind of the czar at that point.
I don't know if that's true. I didn't even know Office of Emergency Management was real. I did look it up. Apparently it is. So I'm going to assume that the director has complete control. What's our world here, Nick? How's this movie open up for us?
Almost like flyovers of LA. We hear a lot of like radio in the background and almost like TV cuts, audio cuts about just life in Los Angeles. Right? It looks sunny, looks happy.
There's multiple voiceovers of newscasters reporting trending news. That doesn't, some of it has something to do with the story and some of it does not. There's a guy named Chili B who is getting released from county jail today, and there's a bunch of supportive fans, and I want to know, who is Chili B?
Free my boy Chili B, man. Unless he's a bad guy, then please don't.
No, maybe he started the volcano.
Okay, well, this is a theory we're going to have to get into afterwards.
Yes. This is also intercutting with volcano clips.
Yes.
There's establishing shots of famous places in LA like Randy's Donuts, Wilshire Boulevard, the Tar Pits. This is kind of where most of this movie takes place. And it is intercut with boiling lava footage.
Ominous, we'll say.
If the title of Volcano in the beginning didn't tell you what was going to happen in this movie, they're kind of dropping some not so subtle hints.
And then we are shaken by an earthquake.
Shooketh.
That disrupts everything. There's some panic, and then we're kind of thrown into meeting our main hero here, Mike Rourke. Mike Rourke, played by, you guessed it, Tommy Lee Jones. He is this director of the city's Office of Emergency Management. This guy's going to be, if everything goes to shit, it's martial law, and he's the one holding all the power. He's in his apartment, and after this earthquake happens, he insists, he's married to his job. He's like, I have to go in, I have to work. He calls his homeboy, Emmett, Don Cheadle, and he goes, hey man, you don't have to, like, everything's fine. Like, nothing's wrong. We have it taken, we have it under control. But he says, no, like, I'm coming in. And the problem with this is that his daughter is there visiting him. Him and his wife are separated, and his daughter's there. We get this little glimpse into maybe what's going to happen down the road, because his wife calls, and he's like, no, I have to go into work. And he goes, what about your daughter? Like, she freezes up during earthquakes and stuff. And you're like, oh, okay. Stash that little nugget in the back of my head, because that's going to come up. What's
going to come first, work or family? Don't ask Dom Toretto.
This is not Dom. Yeah, he's a work man.
We're on the same page here.
Family.
Mike Rourke is supposed to be on vacation this week, but he does come into the office. It's like a big control center. There's cameras in there. There's radio reports of down power lines, of fire hydrants. bursting. The character Emmett Reese, as you mentioned, Nick, he is played by Don Cheadle with hair. He's taken over for Mike Rourke in his absence of his vacation. Everyone's like, what the hell are you doing here? Stay away from work. We got this. Emmett essentially says, yo, I got this covered. I got crews going out everywhere. Everything's all good. Forget about it. We do jump to MacArthur Park, which is off Wilshire Boulevard. That apparently is going to be the start of our volcanic problems.
Now, the city workers there, they're putting bets on where the next earthquake's going to hit.
John Carroll Lynch, he's a great actor. He's been in plenty of stuff. You'll recognize him. I think he was the barber in Gran Torino. I've actually not worked with him, but on the shows I've worked on, he has been guest stars. I did have a conversation with him, actually. He was a character on Perfect Harmony, and he had to drop off a wig to the office, but he can only do it on the weekend. And I happened to be playing softball with the company softball league at the Van Nuys Fields. John was going to be in the area, so he actually dropped off the wig to me, and we had a small conversation about softball.
He seems like that kind of guy.
Yeah, but in this movie, he plays Stan, who is the head supervisor of the Metro subway.
The MTA, yeah.
He works for the subways, the subway system. He's all about trains. I thought this was funny. This seems like a very Los Angeles thing to do, taking bets on the magnitude and the location of the earthquake. And they're taking bets amongst their working crew.
And so we could tell, hey, this is something that's happening frequently, right? There's been a lot of earthquakes recently. Something ain't right. It's just nobody really seems to have an issue with the amount of earthquakes that are happening. Granted, it's California, on a fault line, earthquakes happen. But I feel like they should have had some scientists in there being like, hey, this is weird. It's not quite right.
Well, they're going to send one in when shit gets weird.
And shit is about to get weird right here, right now. So there's utility workers underneath MacArthur Park. All of a sudden, a bunch of steam comes shooting out of this manhole.
It's almost like a horror movie sound effect. It's a loud bang, like a loud, I don't know if it was a score or if it was a sound effect that was supposed to take place in the movie, but there is this bright yellow smoke coming out of the manhole where these public works guys are working in, and a guy's hand comes out, shoots out of the manhole. It's all black and ashy, and the other two public workers are coming out to pull him up out of the ground. Half of his face is burnt off, or it's crispy.
It's charred.
It's crispy.
He got two-faced.
And his voice box is like, they're like, what happened to the others? And he's like, they burned up hot. And then he passes out. So this was concerning because 7 workers died.
Didn't just die, got burned alive.
By this yellow smoke monster.
And now going back to what I was just saying, Mike Rourke says, hey, we need to halt the subway lines near this location because something's off. And Stan's like, nah, it's fine. We're not shutting down the subways. Subways are my domain. We're not shutting them down. Not
only Stan, but also this character named Roger Laffer, who works for Department of Water and Power for LA. And this movie had it out for local government. They're like, public works, idiots. Department of Water and Power, dumbasses. Subway guys, jerks. I don't know what they had against all these branches. Maybe this was a petty screenwriter who had bad run-ins with these departments, but he has it out for them.
Maybe this guy was trying to put an addition on his home in Los Angeles, and the entire city just came down and beat the shit out of him. And he was like, you know what?
I hate public works.
I hate you guys.
Dayton Cali, not sure how you pronounce his last name. I know this guy from Sons of Anarchy. If you see his face, you'd be like, yep, that's the guy from Sons of Anarchy. He plays a representative of Department of Water and Power. He shuts it down. He has no interest in investigating anything at all. He just calls it a steam burn. And I'm like, bro, 7 people died and you're not going to do your due diligence of going down there and saying, hey, how come 7 people died? He's just like, nope, steam pocket.
Didn't just die, burned alive.
Also, when we get to the hospital, I'll have something else to say about Roger's incompetence at his position, but we'll continue on.
Mike does go down in there to investigate, and he finds the source of the steam, narrowly escapes as the steam is about to cook him alive.
With some other homeboy who I thought was going to bite the dust.
I thought he was gone. I was like, you do not look like a main character.
And look at you, you haven't even got a name tag. You got no chance.
I think this is Gator Harris, played by Michael Rispoli. I recognize him as a goon from Kick-Ass, and he's probably been in a bunch of other stuff that I've seen. But he is like Mike's buddy boy, and I thought he was going to die.
Yeah, I did too. But his time comes later.
Emmett does come out. He comes all the way out for some reason. He leaves his post at the control center just to be in the truck on the walkie. They go down, and I think, is it steam, or do they see any like fire or flame down there?
It's just the steam. They just see the crazy steam.
It's extreme heat. They get out of there. Mike wants some more investigation done and wants
He's like, get me scientists, get me geologists,
give me that
get me
seismologist, bruh.
And yeah, everybody could tell. Mike's a little shook. So Don Cheadle, Emmett, is like, all right, yeah, I'm on it. So we do get this seismologist, and this is Dr. Amy Barnes. This is Anne Hetch's character. And she throws this theory out there that a volcano could be forming beneath the city due to earthquakes opening up a fissure in the fault line. But rightfully so, everybody's like, in Los Angeles, like, yeah, everything's just crazy, and 7 guys got burned alive underground, but don't be silly.
Stupid.
And then we have this moment where this movie does this a couple times, and we'll bring this up when it happens. But there's like little social commentaries in there that you could tell they wanted to build out a little bit more, but they didn't. Anne Hedges' character, Amy
Barnes,
she gets her assistant, Rachel, to go into the storm sewer next with her. And they're like, men never listen to us. We should do this ourselves. And it's like, that's fine if you want to make that point. But like, that's the only time like men versus women dynamics ever brought up. And so you're just like, all right, you bring it up and then it just moves on. So that's fine.
I think there's a couple subtle other references to that later on. But
now it turns out the men in this situation were very correct. You should not go down there because Amy and her assistant go down there to investigate, and they're taking samples as another earthquake hits.
Gator didn't bite the dust. You tempt the volcano twice, might take somebody this time.
If there's one thing you need to know about volcanoes, it's that volcanoes require sacrifice.
They don't miss twice.
It doesn't have to be you, but they'll get their body count.
They will snatch you up. So they go down there. Rachel gets swallowed up by the fissure. It all happens in a blur. There's a big flame. It gobbles her up, and then it goes, and then it shoots back down.
You have the moment where Amy's like holding her hand, like she's like, "Don't let go," and then it just becomes too much, and then whoosh, swallowed up.
I wrote down the 2 girls are the 3rd group to go down into the heat death tunnel. 7 people died, and then Mike went down and said, "Hey, don't go down there." And then Amy and Rachel go down, and then
sooner or later,
8th body. So yeah, the crack slurps up Rachel. Amy books it. She gets out of that manhole, or woman hole, as they would say it, because
yeah,
men suck, and I'll agree.
She gets out, and she just starts like stumbling around the streets in this like, heat suit.
This is also the next morning. This is early in the morning at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. They want to go before the cops can tell them that they can't go, which I would figure it would be under 24-hour watch, but whatever. There's another major earthquake, I believe, and I think the power goes out.
Yeah.
Because looters start looting them streets, and Amy puts down her oxygen tank on the hood of a car.
Immediately looted.
And begins to mourn the loss of Rachel, and some guy immediately snatches it up and runs away with it. It was hilarious.
Just books it.
Insult to injury right there. Textbook. Well done, sir. Well done. You get your oxygen tank.
Also during this big new earthquake, we have falling debris underground that hits a subway car. So how Stan was like, no, don't shut down the subways. Well, mistake, because this subway is now trapped underground after getting hit by a bunch of rocks, and everybody's like, it's hot down here. It's hot. It's like, yeah, it's a volcano. And then we turn to the La Brea tar pits. The tar pits start to bubble, and this is where it really shit just hits the fan.
Goes off the rails.
Volcano erupts. Magma. Liquid hot magma erupts.
And I like how a lot of people in the movie were like, what is that? It's like, I know you shouldn't have volcanoes in Los Angeles, but like, if a volcano sprouted up outside of my house, I would be like, that's lava. Everyone's like, what's going on? What's happening? Why is it so hot? What's that orange stuff? Is this a fire?
Mitch, I don't know how to describe this, but the tar pits themselves are on fire, and they're right now spilling out onto Wilshire Boulevard. It's coming right up out of the ground itself. It's as if the tar caught fire, melted, and somehow expanded. I know this sounds crazy, but it almost looks like lava, volcanic lava pouring onto the street.
Speaking of freak accidents, lightning comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, I did see the lightning.
Lightning starts striking the where the lava is erupting from the La Brea tar pits. This is not necessary. We don't need lightning in the mix now.
Nature is just taking its vengeance.
At this point, Mike did take his daughter away from the house because she was scared. He said, we're going to the safest place in the city. I assume that's work. I don't know.
His office, yeah.
But they get caught up at the tar pits, surprise, surprise, where molten lava is coming out onto them streets. We learn of volcano bombs.
Yes.
Which are real.
Yeah, lava bombs are a real thing. Volcanic bombs.
Big pieces of debris that shoot out. I'm sure they don't whistle as they're coming down. I'm sure the sound designer had something to do with that.
They're not the whistle tip Nerf footballs.
It's not like an alarm clock.
That's like an alarm clock. Woo, woo! The whistles go woo!
They should be silent or, I don't know, falling stuff. Unless it's a whistle, it wouldn't make a whistle noise.
Oh, hold on. Let's think about this. If it is lava, it is porous. So if it's traveling through the air fast enough, it might give a little whistle.
It's that woo woo.
All right. Well, you know a lava bomb's coming because it starts whistling at you and then apparently explodes on impact. Now, I do want to point out a little LA Easter egg. You may have noticed that it hit a billboard and there's this blonde lady on it. I'm sure you have no idea who this lady is.
I don't, but I do know that billboard was part of the opening shots for the movie.
So they set that up.
Yes.
That's Angeline. She's a local Los Angeles legend, and she's kind of like the original Kim Kardashian in the sense that she's famous for being famous.
Interesting.
I don't know where she moved in from, but she moved to LA to become an actress, and she got famous for not really becoming an actress, but trying to be famous. She drives around LA in a pink Corvette. I've seen it multiple times. I was actually standing right next to her in a Rite Aid on Sunset and Gower, and she looks freaky because she's 60-something years old and has too much plastic surgery, and I didn't want to make any conversation with her because I have nothing in common with Angeline.
Oh, Angeline.
That's who that is. It hits an Angeline billboard. She has a pink Corvette. If you're in the Los Angeles area, she's usually driving around Hollywood. You can say, hey, you were great in Volcano.
Your billboard did great in Volcano.
I swear, that's the last person I interacted with in this movie.
Back to the volcano.
We were talking before the podcast about how close these people are standing to molten lava coming at them. I feel like your face would melt off. I was just lighting a campfire this last weekend, and I was trying to stoke the fire, throw some wood in. I was about 3 feet away from this small campfire. It is unbearable to stand in front of the campfire. I can't imagine standing in front of hundreds of feet of molten lava, like 2 feet away from you.
Yeah, you have two issues here. One,
two.
You're correct, James.
That's it?
You have two issues here. One, yes, 7 people died because of the steam emanating from this fire, cooked alive. And now this volcano erupts and there's magma everywhere. It is like 3 feet from their feet. And it is hot. I've been to Hawaii while the lava is moving, and you can get pretty close to it. And it's hot. I can't imagine fresh, hot, boiling lava.
It says volcanic lava is about 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yes. Number 2, when a volcano erupts, like the gases that erupt from it, it's basically poison in the air. Like you cannot be near it.
These guys are They're built on smog, all right? People of LA, they're built different. Their lungs are already dead. It's nothing to them.
I wrote down in my notes, like, you thought LA air quality was bad before the volcano. It is unlivable post-volcano.
Not to these hardened cockroaches, it's not.
So there's firefighters out there trying to do their best. Lava's incinerating everything in its path. There's a tipped over fire truck that unfortunately gets caught up in the lava, and 2 firefighters die.
Did you clock that fire truck guy ejectocito?
No, did I miss it?
Yeah, when the fire truck tips over, the guy shoots out of the top of it, and he's like in full seated position. That's what we call in the biz ejectocito, cuz.
Ejectocito, cuz!
Yeah, I did not see that. I'll need to go back and watch that for the ejecto seat.
Emily's eagle eye caught that.
That's fantastic.
We didn't even get into this doctor, but there's a doctor character named Dr. Jay Calder, played by Jacqueline Kim, who was in the beginning of the movie. There was the hospitals were, I think, treating gunshot victims. Again, this is something to do. They're just dropping little breadcrumbs about a class system because this doctor has a douchebag husband. I think she says, I married a genius. So the husband is some sort of big real estate banker. He is opening this big apartment building on Wilshire. The doctor is apparently married to him. The doctor seems like a good person. And she's the one who actually reports that the public works guy didn't get burnt by steam because his clothes are melted. And she says, steam wouldn't do this. Something else would. And I'm like, why didn't homeboy from Department of Water and Power call that out? He just blindly says, up steam.
Steam.
In your OSHA training, you can't call that out?
He cannot.
Dr. Jay Calder is a smart individual. She calls BS on the public works guy that it wasn't steam. We run into her later when she meets up with her husband in this apartment building. And she says, I married a genius. And this is where he says, well, you're going to move into this hospital and you're going to be treating people with tennis elbows instead of gunshots because she's in a bad part of town, I guess. So they're dropping little weird hints about how this movie will not tie into a class system and social justice and race in America. It's sprinkled out throughout the movie, but I don't understand why it's in it.
It's never tied together. Like, at no point is it all tied together. The movie's about a volcano, and you just keep trying to put these other things in. I don't know. Which is
an important conversation, but they don't tie it together. It's just thrown in here.
They throw it in also throughout like the whole rest of the movie, like the next half of the movie. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is all well and good, but the last thing I'm thinking about when I'm running from a volcano is like, is this equitable for everybody?
So Dr. Jay Calder is on the scene at this La Brea tar pit incident, and she's treating firefighters. One firefighter makes a stupid ass decision to save another firefighter who is stuck in the driver's seat of that turned over fire truck.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, these fire trucks look like they're from 1940. It looked like an old timey fire truck.
Fire trucks shouldn't flip like that.
Did you notice that?
Yes, I did. I was like, this is probably just the fire truck they could get from a lot somewhere. They're like, we're going to have to destroy a fire truck.
So these old-timey fire trucks have those big bulbous windows, and you can clearly see Homeboy stuck at underneath the steering wheel, kind of pinned beneath it. And I'm thinking, yo, smash the front windshield and get him out of there. Nope. This guy decides to climb up, jump down into the turned over fire truck. Now they're both stuck in there. He had no plan. It's like you can't pull him out in that position.
That's what you think.
And they both die.
James, you mentioned it kind of at the top of this, but the decisions that are made by adults that you hope are like professional adults in this movie is continuously disappointing.
Wildly improv, I'll say.
Mike is out there and he's trying to help because this is what he does, right? He's a hero. And he tells Kelly, I have to go. You stay here.
Kelly gets hit by lava.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you are...
A piece of lava lands on her pajama pants, and it's just second-degree burn.
Which, yeah, that's... No, you have like no skin left in that area.
Yeah. I got to get that pair of pajama pants because that will be helpful.
Things I would not do in a volcanic eruption: abandon my child. But this is Mike's MO, right? This is who he is. And he basically gives his daughter to
the doctor. Doctor needs to get all these firefighters out of here. They need to go to the specific hospital.
Cedar Sinai.
They need to go to Cedar Cyanide. The daughter, Kelly, needs to join to be in good hands because Mike's like, I ain't got time for being a dad. I got to go save the goddamn city.
Yeah, and he gives her this line, it's my responsibility. He takes his job very seriously. Like, I almost feel like he's been praying for this moment. He's like, gosh, I hope an emergency happens so that I could be the go-to guy.
God, I wish a volcano would.
He's almost like a narcissist about it. Like, it's like, oh, this is finally my time. It's about me now. It's like, all right, dude. There's also something really funny that happens in this scene. As the magma's flowing down the street, the firefighters are still there, right? Fire truck overturned. Other firefighters have been burned alive by magma. There's still a crew of firefighters out there with their hoses attached to a fire hydrant, fighting fires as magma is coming towards them flowing down the street.
So, have you ever seen the movie The Ultimate Christmas Present?
I have not.
Okay, I think it's a Disney Channel original movie. And it's about this weather machine, and this girl wishes for a white Christmas in LA. She wishes for snow to come down onto LA so she can experience a real Christmas. And all of those people in it, all the Autopians of that movie, like don't understand snow and just are gunning it on the accelerator. They're slamming on the brakes. No one gets snow. No one understands snow. No one has any desire to adapt to snow. They're just like, I know no snow and I must go. And that's how I felt about watching Volcano. They're like, I've never seen lava, but I could beat this thing up with a hose. It's like those guys that think they can fight a tiger or a bear. You know that meme that says 20% of men think they can beat up a lion?
It's a shockingly high number of men who believe that.
That's what these people are. These Los Angelinos are like, I could take on lava.
I don't think I would need to know that much about lava to know that I can't stop or beat lava.
Well, that's why you're a wimp.
At some point in this whole scenario, you're thinking to yourself, somebody should have taken the reins and started the complete evacuation of Los Angeles, right? That has not happened.
Note that down. We're about maybe halfway through plot talk. Note it down.
Noted. Our MTA chairman, Stan, John Carroll Lynch's character, he realizes these people are stuck down in the subway, and he's like, the subway, this is my domain. I'm the subway man. I'm going to go assemble a team.
I did appreciate that.
Save them.
He wasn't a weenie about it because he made a very irresponsible decision to keep the subways operating and then owned up to his responsibility and decided to go in, take action, check out the subway train, save the train car. But when he gets down there, he sees it's a completely dire situation, but he must save those people who rode his subway.
I was confused by this a little bit. If the lava's flowing on the surface, underground, there's like the lava would have overtaken all of this. And we see this later. The lava starts flying through the subway system later on down the road. But hey, it is what it is. Stan's down there.
Fuming.
We're talking like it's like covering 2 city blocks every 10 seconds later on down the road. Like they're like, how fast is this? You're just like, it is a whitewater rapid of lava that is overtaking the city.
It goes hella fast.
But Stan has a moment. James, could you describe this moment to me?
Stan gets on the train and everyone's kind of passed out from like something. Turns out to be heat stroke because it's hella fucking hot down there.
Shocker.
This crash train has a bunch of survivors in it, but they do take note that there is lava slowly melting towards the train car.
It's creeping.
It's a slow burn, literally. And again, this is where I'm proud of Stan because he says we need to get everyone off this train right now, as opposed to a cowardly move where he would just say we need to save ourselves. Kind of like a Homelander airplane situation, season 1. he says there's no hope. We got to just bail. Got to jump ship.
Everything's fine, guys. Everything's fine. You're okay.
Wait, you're leaving us?
No. I'm just seeing something down the back.
Not Stan. Stan wants to save his subway passengers because he loves his business.
Well, this is the subway driver. He's like, this is my guy.
Oh, well, I'm saying he says, get all these people off the train. And then he's like, where's the driver? Where's the driver? And it's that guy from the George Lopez show.
Yes, it is Valente Rodriguez.
Stan is hell-bent on saving the driver. Everyone has pretty much vacated the train. John Carroll Lynch, Stan, he locates the driver. He has to put him on his back, fire style. Was he walking slow? Like, was it hard for him?
The soles of his shoes were sticking to the ground because it was so hot underneath him. So like the rubber from his soles were being pulled off. And it's just so hot. He's so exhausted. He's just like drudging forward, trying to get to the back of the subway.
These Metro guys obviously haven't been watching the news because they go down into the subways saying like, what's wrong with our train? But it's like, if you tuned in to the many news outlets that are covering this, there's a volcano happening.
Could be the Kano.
So Stan has the driver on his shoulders. Everyone's off the train, but the lava has crept up past the exit door where they originally entered the train car from.
Surrounding the whole train.
So it started on one end. It has now made its way through underneath the entire train car, is now pretty much essentially blocking the exit. And John Carroll Lynch looks down, Stan, horrified. All his Metro buddies are like, Stan!
Jump, Stan! You gotta jump, Stan!
And this lava has rolled out at least 8 feet. And I'm like, I know Stan is not athletic enough to clear 8 feet with a body on his back.
So previously in the movie, we saw Mike Rourke carrying his daughter jump and clear some lava. So we're like, all right, there's some precedent for this. Right? We've seen people jump the lava.
Yeah, and same situation. The lava was creeping underneath their Suburban and pops the tires. And I'm just like, what? This car would be melted.
Yeah. The idea there was a part earlier, they're like, we got to flip a car to block the lava. And it's like, the lava doesn't care about your steel.
We get the first clue of their game plan to stop the lava. Tommy Lee Jones recruits everybody to flip this bus to redirect the lava. And I'm like, wouldn't it just melt it? The residual heat, I think, would just warm up that metal and it would be unbearable to be near, let alone for Tommy Lee to jump up on the tire, jump up on the hood, and then do a little 2-footer jump to get off the lava territory. Mike can do it. We're thinking Stan can do it. Stan knows it's time. He just jumps straight into the lava and
2 feet
hurls the driver. No squat, just all arms, just
pure adrenaline.
Whoa, all shoulders.
Running on pure adrenaline.
Just yeets this guy into safety. The cars, the buses, they can withstand the heat. Stan instantly melts. He is liquid in 5 seconds.
Stan's doughy body cannot handle the lava.
Oh, I was going to say, there wasn't even like a body or remains. It was just gone. He just schmelted.
I think that's what would happen. I think that the human body would just melt into the lava.
Some realism.
But it is funny because he's like slowly melting down to like, it's just like his upper torso. And he's like looking at everybody. And it's just, you could tell he's like being lowered down in real life slowly into the lava.
There was a funny quote. This is my favorite quote of the movie that's coming up. But Amy, when she's seeing all the liquid hot magma make its way above Earth and become lava, she says, "You would have loved this, Rachel." And I'm like, I don't think so, because she hella died to lava. She'd probably fucking hate it. Did you remember that? I think it's supposed to be like a touching moment of like remembering Rachel.
That'd be like somebody drowning in the ocean, then like standing out on a beach somewhere and being like, God, you would have loved this. And it's like, no, they would not have. They would have preferred to have never seen lava.
Not now.
I'm sure she totally regrets her choice of getting into this field.
He got her killed.
Like if you're a seismologist and you study volcanoes, like, do you ever think that there's a chance of you dying in lava? I feel like no.
I need to go on a side tangent of the plot talk. During this bus barricade scene that we were just talking about, There is this is where the social classes, social justice come in. There's this black guy who comes over to the scene and is asking all of these firefighters and cops to head south and start putting out fires in this, I'm assuming, low income neighborhood. And he is just jawing at the cops. The cops are not being friendly. They actually do introduce these two specific characters in the early montage of setting up LA, where cops show up to the scene and I don't know what's happening, but there's some sort of dispute, but they kind of get into each other's face. It's the same two characters.
Yes.
So this is the black guy is Marcelo Thedford, and the police officer is James McDonald. And these guys basically play the role of cops versus African Americans in America. And then this is what we were kind of hinting at earlier about them just dropping in these irrelevant social topics, important topics. But
yeah,
I feel like when you just shoehorn it into this disaster movie, it seems like you're trying to add some sort of validation to your movie. It's like, no, you're about a volcano and you're just trying to throw this in as if we're supposed to learn an important lesson. It's like, don't throw that in if it's not going to add anything to the story.
Couldn't agree more.
During this bus barricade scene, this cop would rather arrest this black guy than assist in the lava situation.
I'm never going to frame an innocent man again unless I know he's black for sure.
Yeah, it was really weird. I was watching that. I'm like, is this like a B plot or like a subplot of racial tensions? I don't know why. I do like the bus flipping scene because it's like the police officers and the firefighters working together. Like the police officers all line up and fire bullets.
Oh my God, that was so funny.
At the bus tires.
Classic LAPD, because they're like, we need the bus tires flat. And every single officer brings out their handgun and doesn't shoot it once. They don't ask one guy to shoot it one time. They all 9 officers up. Just pop, 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 pop. It's like classic.
Like, ready, fire. Like it's like a firing line.
Trained to do that.
Oh, that was good.
This movie had things to say about LAPD, Department of Water and Power, and Public Works.
They were not fans.
But yeah, they do throw that in, and it's just sporadically sprinkled into this volcano movie.
We're bringing it up because it really culminates into the last line of the movie for no reason. So just stay tuned.
Oh, you wait.
Because it gets weird. But Mike, Amy, and the LAPD have this plan. So they're going to use concrete barriers to create a blockade to obstruct the path of the lava. So they're going to try and divert the lava so that it affects the least amount of people. And then they're like, well, if we can cool it somehow, if we can get all the water and we get some helicopters to dump the water, maybe it'll form a crust and kind of create like it's a dam for itself. And so that's what they do. And they do it successfully. And I add helicopters fly overhead, drop all the water.
Very ragtaggy. They corral all the firefighters, all the police officers, get all of the police barricades, the concrete barriers that they can. Very quickly organized. I feel like government does not move this fast and does not operate this organized, especially in the matter of 30 minutes.
Well, they didn't have an Office of Emergency Management leader like Mike Rourke.
You know what? That's our problem. They do stop it. Now, Nick, how many helicopters were in this scene dumping water?
I want to say maybe like 12. There was a lot.
I think it was like 20 or so. It seemed like they were
Could have been
flying very close together. So essentially, they do drop this line that Dr. Amy Barnes says, oh, if we can get it blockaded, if we can get it dammed and dump water on it, we can stop it. That's what they did in Iceland. Mm-hmm. Because there was this true story in 1973 where this volcano near this small town in Iceland did erupt. They actually got to stop with a lot of pumps spraying millions of gallons of seawater over it. But they also think that the volcano eruption kind of slowing down also played a factor. This fictional volcano is here and it's just getting started. So in this real life situation, they had 6.2 million tons of seawater to dump on it. Now, I crunched a little bit of light numbers here. and I'm going to give Volcano 1997 benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
I'm going to be generous and say there was 30 helicopters.
It's a lot of helicopters.
It was a lot. And these aren't the Chinooks that you would actually use to dump fire retardant solution on or water. These were just like your basic police newscaster style helicopters.
Yeah, any helicopter you can get.
They weren't carrying buckets. The water was like in the cabin and just dumped out the back. Just doing a quick Google search of how much water can a helicopter carry. Those big Chinooks, I saw it. I think the answer was 700 gallons. So I'm going to be generous and say that these little rinky-dink helicopters can carry 1,000 gallons. So we have, let's just say 30 helicopters, 1,000 gallons each. Comes out to roughly 1,000 tons of water. Yeah, we have 1,000 tons of water versus the real life 6.2 million tons of water. This wouldn't do shit.
It would not.
Were they expecting the audience to do all that math and calculation in their head while watching this movie in the theater in 1997? Probably not. Did I do it? Yes. I call bullshit.
You bet your ass he did.
Not realistic. Seems like we've saved the day, but this movie still has 30 minutes left in it, so problem not solved. I think here comes that lightning speed lava we were talking about.
Yeah, Amy says something like, but there's still a source. Like, the source is the Earth. What do you mean the source? But she means, it has to divert somewhere. Like, it's not over. We have to figure it out. So she goes back down into the sewers with a device, and she finds out, lava's still happening. At one point, they open up a manhole cover, and they look down into, like, the subway system. And this is what we're talking about. Lava is flowing at, what do we think, James? 50, 60 miles an hour?
Looks like it's going as fast as a subway.
It's cruising. Now, I'm sitting here being like, if you open the hole where the lava's going down, like, your face skin, singed off.
We're not even going to mention how much ash these guys are breathing the entire time.
Oh, sulfur, ash. I mean, just, these people have long-term problems.
Mike helps confirm her suspicions. She calculates that another eruption will occur at the end of the red line, which is where, Nick?
Well, it's Cedars-Sinai Hospital.
Where Mike has been sending every single sad sap and his daughter to go get help.
Yeah, and he seems very upset. He's like, I messed up. It's like, you did. How were you supposed to know things? First off, you should have sent them out of the fucking city.
Well, remember when I said clock that in the middle of plot talk?
Yes. We have a lot to say about the need for an evacuation plan.
They deciphered that they have about 20 minutes until this thing erupts. They're running out of options because this is literally Mission Impossible. And Mike devises another plan to build a dam.
Wild plan.
Which is essentially the same plan as the other plan. This is just on a bigger scale. He says, hey, what if we have a large enough thing to dam up the lava, and decides to precision demolish this building, which of course is the doctor's husband's, the douchebag's property apartment that he's opening, of course.
And then we see this douchebag again. He runs out to his wife and is like, we need to leave. And she's like, I have to help people. And he's like, you'd rather help these strangers than live with me? And she's like, yes. And he's like, ugh. And it's like, why was this? The movie didn't need a villain. Lava was the villain.
I think that was his only 2 scenes.
Yes, that was it. And they introduced him like an actual character. Who is this schmuck?
During the original barricade scene, this is where my favorite line was. When that black guy who is cuffed up, he starts kind of mouthing off at the cops. And he says, I'm about to be Volcano version of Rodney King. And I was like, well, okay, well, I guess we see where the inspiration is coming from for the social justice and the race in America conversation that nobody asked for in the 1997 movie Volcano.
5 years too late on that one, guy.
Okay, guy, settle down.
Yeah, so they do uncuff him, and he helps them out. And that was, again, another kind of like, oh, if we band together and fight a common enemy, then we're not so different. It's like, yeah, no shit. There's lava in the streets, dude. Like, why?
It's literally lava.
Why is this police officer like obsessed with mistreating this guy?
Yeah, the whole time. And then he's like, wait, if I do this, will it save my neighborhood? They're like, yeah. He's like, give me that barrier. And he like lifts up the concrete barrier. It's like,
this guy's like a unit, by the way. So they're like, yeah, get this guy to help you out. All hands on deck.
It's literally an extinction event. What are we talking about here?
So they do say it will take literal days to properly demolish a building like that, to have it drop straight down or precision drop it where you want it to go. And Mike's answer to that is better make it a speed run.
We don't have days.
They rig up bombs to this thing in less than 19 minutes. Literally. That's the timestamp.
And Mike in this time has become an explosive expert because he's the one laying out a lot of the line, the fuse. He's out there with a jackhammer. Like he's
I'm like, this will take hours, dude. And you're telling me this is 20 minutes?
Nah, he's done it.
Meanwhile, there's this little dumbass kid that Kelly is watching. She's kind of
his daughter Kelly, yeah.
The Dr. J. Calder gives Kelly the job of babysitting and kind of making sure these kids feel safe and warm. Kelly loses Tommy and he runs off. And of course, it's the worst time to do that because they're rigging up this building to blow the fuck up.
And where does the kid run to?
Right next to this hospital.
She also has this line. She says the same line that Mike says earlier. He goes, that kid is my responsibility. It's like, okay, here's the callback to taking care of your responsibility. But it really falls deaf because there's been no character development for Kelly whatsoever. We've seen her for like 7 minutes this whole film.
Dr. Amy Barnes was in charge of finding Kelly, and obviously she failed because Mike sees Kelly at the last minute where they...
Wait, real quick. We lose Gator.
Gator and some other homeboy get trapped or pinned underneath like a cement column or something, and Gator's trying to help that guy out. They're asking everyone like, hey, is this bomb site clear? Are you clear? This side clear? North side clear? And they're like, clear. They get to Gator and they just know it's go time and they have to sacrifice themselves and just lie and say, tower's clear. And they're going to go down with the rubble.
Yeah, like Gator survived the steam in the sewers.
But he couldn't survive Mike's explosive plan.
So he killed Gator. Kelly is just like wandering out in the street with this little boy.
Yeah, she sees Tommy wander from the parking lot into the open street. Kelly pursues him into the open street. That's where Mike, her father, is. And he sees this dumbass little kid, Tommy, waltz off into this war zone of a natural disaster and sees Kelly right behind him. And he knows the building's blowing up and he has to sprint over. Kelly and Tommy, meanwhile, are just
oblivious,
standing there with dead eyes at this building coming down, literally staring at her father run at her. And then when he finally gets to her, he kind of pushes her out of the way, maybe 10 feet. And I'm like, is that all it took? Just 10 feet to clear the debris, rubble, explosion, disaster zone?
No, the debris still falls on them. The building still falls on them.
Yeah, they take a building to the dome.
But then in the aftermath, through the rubble, they like emerge. I'm like, wait, what? The building fell on them and they just, what? Not to mention all the concrete dust you're breathing in. Again, this guy's lungs are
shot.
This is a guy that has so many problems. This guy maybe lives another 8 years.
Building comes down.
Maybe.
Lava gets redirected towards the ocean. Mission success.
Now we got to get to the dumbass kid's line. So the dumbass kid, Mike looks at him and goes, where's your mom? As if, where's your mom, right?
This kid is... It's the cop.
Oh, it's the cop.
This is
where's your mom?
This is Keith David. So he has Tommy, and he says, let's help you find your mom. Where's your mom? What does she look like? And what happens here, Nick?
So everybody's face is black with like debris, right? Debris and ash, and everybody's just like
dusty.
Looks like they've been working. They look like they've been working in an 1840s coal mine.
Yeah, very, very like light gray, dusty face.
And gosh, what's the kid's exact line? It is.
He says, "Look at their faces. They all look the same."
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And that's the last line of the movie.
Is it? I think there's like some newscast voiceovers, right?
There might be some voiceover, but as far as like the last line spoken by a person, that's it. That's how they leave the movie.
What was your reaction when you heard this? I'll tell you mine after you tell me yours.
Mine was simple. It was, what the fuck?
Mine was like cringy and uncomfortable. I didn't like that they put that in.
I don't get it. I didn't get it.
I understand what you're trying to say to me right now, that we should all put our differences aside, no matter what color, size, gender, whatever. You had disaster movie, you had this social commentary, and you didn't tie it together. They were in the same Uber, and they didn't make conversation.
I don't know if they were on the same Uber. They maybe were sitting at the same stoplight.
There was no real ties to it.
I would, if I was the person asking that kid the question, I would look at that kid and be like, "What the fuck?"
The last shot is of the newly christened active volcano, which is on Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles. So I guess we're all cool with the volcano now.
Yeah, now there's just a volcano in Los Angeles.
Nick, do you have any nitpicks for Volcano?
Nitpicks.
Just so we're all on the same page, you cannot be that close to lava and be okay.
No.
You cannot be as close to lava as they were and be okay.
Suspension of belief, toying with physics and science is very heavy-handed in this movie. Don't go into this movie thinking you're gonna go see something scientifically accurate. I think we can all agree on that.
But my issue was there were also points in the movie where they were being scientific. Like they were referencing other things that happened in Iceland. They were referencing, they had a seismologist actually talking about stuff.
That's not being scientifically accurate. That's throwing in buzzwords and trying to tie it back to reality. But when you go off the rails, you're not being scientifically accurate.
I know. It just felt like they were trying to be in some senses. And then when they needed the action shot, they were like, screw it.
Now, if I need to let go of reality and be entertained, that's fine. What I won't let slide is the logical decisions made by the adults in this movie. Now, remember when I said halfway through the plot talk, I want you to clock when you said, why don't they just evacuate?
Yes.
So at the end of the movie, Amy says, if I was in charge, I would have evacuated the whole west side and maybe sacrificed half the city. Yeah, that's what you should do. She's acting as if the lava not destroying, which apparently was a natural disaster. So God's will, freak of nature accident happens.
Force majeure.
You let it happen. You don't fight hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanoes. You run. This is Mother Nature saying, I'm the captain now. Look at me.
It's like those news stories where they're like, Florida officials warn citizens, do not shoot at the hurricanes.
Yeah, this is that. This is that.
It feels that way.
She says, if I was in charge, I would have evacuated the city, but I would have lost half the city. It's like, yeah, who cares? LA sucks. Your lives are much more important than saving Wilshire Boulevard. I'm sorry.
Also, a lot of stuff that happens in the movie, it's not shown, but there's a lot of death and destruction that happens in this movie.
Yeah.
It's not like they saved every single person. There's a lot of people who die in this movie still.
Wrapping that up with the conversation between Dr. Amy Barnes and Mike Rourke. She says, I would have evacuated the city. He says, if you were in charge, we would have known about this 24 hours ago. And then she, woman-man thing, and says, well, I was wrong and you were right. It's like, no, you were right the whole time. Get the hell out the city. You're being gaslit right now, Amy.
As we've talked about in previous movies where you're like, did anybody learn a lesson? Is anybody better? Like, no, Mike didn't learn to like be less involved at work. If anything, it was like, yeah, it's a good thing you were. It's a good thing you neglected your family.
Well, at the very end, he does say, you know what, Emmett, you can go back to work. I'm going to spend the rest of my day with my daughter. After he dropped a building on the city.
Yeah, the city is, he's wreaked havoc upon the city, and now he's going to go call it a day.
I don't agree with Amy that Mike was right. I think Amy was right. I think they should have all left. Here's what you do. Let's leave.
Evacuate. Like, sorry, there's nothing we can do here. There's a volcano coming. We need to leave.
That's my nitpick, which I see you also wrote down, was why did no one evacuate?
That should have been Plan A1. Evacuate the city.
Let's get into some talking points here. I see you have something written down. First up, you want to present it to me?
What the hell was up with that whole subplot of racial and societal undertones? The look at their faces, the profiled guy by the cops, there's some other stuff. Like, what are you trying to do? You don't get to just sprinkle that on the top of the movie and say, hey guys, we did a good thing in our movie. We could pat ourselves on the back because we addressed some hot button issues.
Once again, very important topics, poorly executed. No ties to the movie.
The wrong movie. Wrong movie to put him in.
Not the best movie to put him in. I'll say that. Can you imagine what's like other movies if they did that? You'd be like, what the hell?
Gremlins. Or you threw it into like a movie like Aliens. Oh, we're running from these aliens, but also there's this whole racial subplot. Like, why?
But also, I need to arrest you because you're a different color than me.
Yeah, again, I get what they're going for, but you're also in a scenario where I'm a lot more sympathetic with the police officer in that moment, where he's like, there's lava coming, and the guy's like, rah, he's like, get the fuck, I have to arrest you if you're not going to leave, because I'm trying to tip over a bus to stop lava. I don't know what else to do here. Like, everybody's freaking out.
Yeah, and then the look at their faces line was just like, okay.
Oh.
Like, hey, do you want to beat this over my head of what you're trying to tell me in a really not well executed way? There it is.
Like, that point in the movie, everybody's waiting for some sort of closure from Mike and his daughter. Maybe Don Cheadle's there.
They wanted to make that the exclamation point stamp of the lesson learned. And it's like, no, that's this B story that you shoehorned in. I need to know what is Mike's journey.
Yeah.
Because that's who we've been focused on for the last hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's probably my issue with it the most, is that Mike is the main character. And at no point was Mike a bad person. Like, Mike wasn't learning a social lesson. Mike had a great relationship with his black coworker, Don Cheadle.
He loved Emmett.
And he listened to this woman. And they were partners. So it's like, the main character didn't have a struggle with any of this. It was just this random thing that happened to side characters.
Well, speaking of B plots and C plots, let's move on to our next side plot, which makes zero sense. And I literally have no idea why it was included. It's the relationship with Dr. J. Calder and her husband, who is a dick for no reason.
Yeah. It's like they're like, this movie needs a villain. So this is our villain guy, the big banker who's developing a building. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if this guy's necessarily a bad guy. He's clearly developing real estate in the city. He's creating jobs.
One of the many news voiceovers in the beginning shouts out the apartment building that he has constructed. And it says the so-and-so high-rise apartment building across from the Beverly Center, yada, 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 constructed by Norman Calder, has proof that LA's economy is on the come up or on the comeback. It's on the rise. And then Mike Rourke just blows that shit up.
And this guy's the bad guy for being like, hey, I would like my wife to work in a safer environment. Also, hey, wife, shit's hitting the fan. Do you want to get out of here?
Hey, wife.
Shit is hitting the fan here. Like, this is not like, I don't think this guy's necessarily a bad guy. He's responding how I think 95% of people would respond. Like, he went back into the city, he found his wife, and was like, we need to get out of here.
Can we talk about the character of Dr. J. Calder real quick?
Sure.
She probably was the most useful because she was just all about helping people. When the husband came up and was saying, we need to leave these people, it just reminded me of like, what doctors do. They take the oath to save as many lives as they can. They can't walk away from a life, which I thought was great. With all that said, this character did not need to be in the movie.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
This character showed up. We knew that she was a doctor. We knew that she was a smart person. She spends the entire movie mending cuts, dealing with injuries, providing shots, putting defibrillators on people. She's really just like a featured doctor character. Like you said, with Norman, was set up to be like a main character or a big player in this movie. But her character has nothing to do with the story.
I agree.
She has no interactions with Mike other than their time on the street when he says, you're going to take my daughter to the hospital. She has no effect on Mike's story arc. If anything, she kind of has something to do with Kelly because she says you need to babysit these people.
The racist cop had more of a story arc.
Well, I'll tell you what, Stan, he had a greater character arc than Mike.
So I think Stan's the hero of the movie.
You can cut this movie up and it could be a short film featuring Stan, the man. Because Stan starts out as an unlikable character. He's flawed. He's taking bets on earthquakes. It seems very inconsiderate. Who's this jerk? He doesn't want to shut down the subways. He just cares about his business. And then the second act of Stan's character arc is, oh no, I need to go investigate what's wrong with my train. It evolves into, oh, I need to save all these people on this train. I'm no longer a selfish businessman. I am a selfless hero.
To the point where he sacrifices his own life.
And he grabs the driver of his company and yeets him into safety, and he takes the fall. So in my notes, I wrote down Stan, he has a flawed beginning, he has a developed middle, he has a fixed ending. And Mike is kind of just like his flaw to hero ratio is not there. He's just kind of like all business. He's all about trying to save lives, and I don't really understand what his character arc is.
He doesn't have one.
And if there was one, it was to hang out with his family as opposed to going to work, but that is super watered down and very, very flat. Your next talking point here is, I don't know if this is a talking point or if this is a nitpick, actually, but you're asking, where's the National Guard?
Yeah. This seems like a big enough event where the National Guard should be like the whole federal government's like,
Nick,
release the hounds, dude.
This
like,
is a nitpick.
Get everybody out there.
This is a nitpick. What is this doing in talking points?
I think of nitpicks of like big plot holes. This is more a question of maybe if they said, oh, so maybe it is a nitpick.
Thank you.
So let me bring it back into a nitpick.
Nitpicks.
So this is where we talk all the time, where you can solve so many plot holes with a very simple line. You could have been something as simple as we called the National Guard and they can't get anybody here. The airspace is too smoky. They can't send anybody in. Oh, the earthquake destroyed the freeways. We can't send trucks in and the air is too bad. You're isolated. So like that would have been like, oh, okay. I completely don't have any more questions about where the help is. There's no help coming. It's just Mike. He's isolated now.
It's just Mike.
But they don't do that. Like that would have been a really, really, really easy way to solve that plot hole.
Who said I want to be like Mike? That was dropped in the movie somewhere. Was that Emmett?
Don Cheadle said
Is
it.
that Emmett?
Yeah, Emmett said it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, wow. Michael Jordan reference. Little Easter egg
like,
there.
dang, I want to be like Mike.
Speaking of Easter eggs, my wife caught the fattest, most juicy Easter egg in the credits.
Ooh.
I don't know if you ever noticed in the credits, assistant to so-and-so, and it has some production assistant's name. Emily, my wife, looks at the credit and it says, assistant to Lauren Scholler Donner. And this production assistant's name is probably one of the biggest names in Hollywood right now. Nick, can you take a fat guess of who this was?
One of the biggest names in Hollywood.
Hint, he is...
That's a good hint.
Yeah, that'll narrow it down.
Because I was just going to say Chris Pratt. That was going to be my just go-to. But give me the hint.
This lowly little PA to this producer on this film is the chief creative officer of a major film studio with a very expanded universe. Very.
Is it I always butcher his last name. Is it Kevin Feige?
Kevin Feige.
Feige. I always say Feige, like beige. But Kevin Feige, really? First off, hey, show him some props. Got that one.
Way to go, Nick.
But that was a great hint. That was a pretty...
I kind of gave it away.
You did.
Yeah, no, Emily, we had to pause, and then she's like, Kevin Feige? And I was like, there's no way that's the Kevin Feige.
That's actually Kevin Feige.
Looked it up. It's fucking Kevin Feige.
Sure as shit, huh?
Yeah, so I'm looking up articles about him being a PA for this producer, and he says, he started out washing cars and getting groceries, like all of those jobs start out as for those big producers or showrunners. So she becomes a producer on X-Men and makes him a producer. That's kind of how it starts.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a little bit upset with the Hollywood formula, because you kind of need to know the right people. I'm glad that he moved up because he's done a really good job with Marvel and the cinematic universe, and being there from day one, like the X-Men, the Blade days, 90s, early 2000s Marvel movies.
Early Marvel properties, yeah.
Yeah, so it's cool to see that can happen to people who can take a whole universe and be successful with it. But it does piss me off because sometimes it doesn't matter about your work ethic. You kind of just need to land in the correct lap.
Yeah.
And they'll just elevate you. So she made him a producer on X-Men, and then he just took his whole career in a whole new trajectory. But yeah, Kevin Feige, he's a PA on this movie.
It's interesting because I always feel that way where, because like you said, there's a lot of Hollywood where there's a lot of luck involved.
So much.
Even every industry. Like I'm in the tech industry, and sometimes you end up working on the same team with somebody who starts their own company and says, hey, you want to come work with it? And, every industry, everywhere, you can meet the right person and luck into something. But, it's like a good intersection of luck, and then like once you get that break, you just work your ass off with it.
It's what you do after lightning strikes.
Yeah.
Or a volcano.
And then there's some people who get the lucky break and don't work hard, and they still somehow get rewarded, and that is where you get
I know those people.
So annoying. Yeah, those are the worst.
There's me. That's why I am here with you, living my best life, and why Kevin Feige is a literal millionaire, probably also living his best life.
Yeah.
But I'd rather be here with my best friend discussing movies that are obscure and irrelevant. My last talking point of this irrelevant movie
I'd rather you be Kevin Feige.
All right, well, now I feel bad. Who or what is the antagonist in this movie? I have a loose answer because it is not clear. I don't think it's a person. I don't think it's the lava. The lava is just doing its thing. The lava is lava. It's not its fault that it's lava. It's an adversary in this movie.
The antagonist? If I had to give you an answer.
I'll give you an answer.
Me.
Just give me one.
I would say chaos.
I think it's ignorance.
That's a good one. I like that one better.
Because so many people are like irresponsible in their decision making. No one wants to investigate the deaths of these 7 public works employees. Everyone's like, it's probably fine, whatever. They're being ignorant. Mike is being ignorant. Amy's being ignorant, saying like Mike was right. It's like, no, you were right, Amy. But like, I don't really see like anything overcoming. Like everyone thinks they were right in the end. I mean, except for Amy, who was the only one who was right. Should have evacuated that fucking goddamn city. I think it's ignorance.
I'd have to agree with you. Just bad decision upon bad decision, all based on ignorance. So
to summarize this movie and how I would sell it, can I give you my sarcastic selling point? Let's say I'm a PA for Lauren Schuller Donner, wherever the hell her name is. I would say, hey, I want to make a movie that's like Twister, but with a volcano.
I like that.
What do you got?
If I was walking into the studio trying to pitch this movie, I would say, hey guys, our VFX team just made a huge breakthrough with magma. We need to use it.
I'm in.
Final review. Fight.
What are the other guys saying about 1997's Mick Jackson's Volcano?
You're ridiculous. All right. The Rotten Tomatoes critics score is a 49%.
And once again, we have the rare... Hold on, I got my own disaster happening outside.
I think somebody just tripped the alarms on your street.
Just like Volcano, it is very hot over here. My house is a furnace. Like I said, I have no AC, so the windows got to be open. I think someone just ripped on by with a motorcycle and just set off that car alarm.
I heard the motorcycle ripping, yeah.
We'll just wait for a minute.
6.5 hours later.
The car alarm stopped. Okay, so we have, once again, the rare occurrence of the audience score being lower than the critics in what I would think the audience score would be higher in this action-packed disaster movie. Rotten Tomatoes fans are coming in at a pathetic 32%.
It's low. It seems low. Switch on over to Metacritic. The Metacritic critic score is a 5.5.
But our audience score for Metacritic is a 5.8. It's better, but not by much.
The IMDb wildcard score is a 5.5. So most people are sitting in that 5.5 range, except the Rotten Tomatoes audience at the 39.
Which is bizarre, right?
It's different. It's definitely different.
Please hit me with your laughable logline.
Get ready for an explosive ride as Tommy Lee Jones does his best to defeat a volcano. A 4 is a flat 4. I don't know who this movie was for. And I this is one of those movies where I feel like they came up with the concept and then tried to fashion a plot around it. right? The plot didn't come first. They were like, what if there was a volcano in Los Angeles? They're like, good, we could work with that. Let's build a plot around it. It didn't work. Honestly, it was forgettable in every way. I see why this has been lost into the bowels of 1997. This isn't showing up on cable channels. This isn't one of the catalogs on your flight, right? Nobody wants to see this. The random side plots, the doctor and the husband, the racial stuff. This is what I'd say about the movie, and this is really what just gives it a 4, which on our scale means it's a stale bag of popcorn. This movie was neither good nor bad. It just did not need to be made.
Fair.
And that's my takeaway from this movie.
Are you ready for my laughable logline?
I want to hear it so bad.
Instead of evacuating the city from a surprise active volcano, the plucky little town of Los Angeles bands together to fight the lava. 5.2 popcorns.
Okay.
Is this movie entertaining? Yes. Is it realistic? No. By a mile. This imbalance doesn't really have any it factor for me to justify that it's good. I definitely agree with you that it's not good, it's not bad. It's just kind of there. Last season when we watched Cutthroat Island, I had pretty much the same thoughts, and I have a pretty similar rating. I think I gave that a 5.5. It's entertaining. I can mindlessly watch it, but if I'm trying to watch a good movie, I'm not mindlessly watching it. I should be engaged and emotionally involved in this movie. I can't give it that it's so bad it's good score. It's an hour 40-minute movie, but honestly, it doesn't feel like it. This thing does move. That's how attention grabbing it is, but there's just
not as fast as that lava does in the LA subway system.
Ayo, there's no value in this movie. It feels like empty calories. I'm not sure what the lesson is. It feels like it's all plot, no story. Like I said, Stan had a way bigger character arc than Mike. That's a problem. I don't feel even emotionally manipulated by the movie. You know, some movies, like, they're not good, but they will get you with little tugging at your heartstrings, like trying to make you cry. It's like, oh, that moment was so touching. None of that. I wasn't emotionally involved at all in this movie. The social justice and race in America conversation was included in the movie, but it was not involved. Douchebag guy? Don't know the point of him. Only thing I can think of is that his purpose was to supply a no guilt trip for Mike to blow up his building because he was an asshole. The structure was pretty standard. Believability, terrible. Tropes, pretty bad. Plot holes, I can go over them. I'm sure they're there. Probably as big as a fissure in Los Angeles.
Something so I've tried to explain this to people, you know, who I talk to and tell them about our podcast and our point system. I think maybe something else we could add on is maybe a rewatchability score, because I would like the rewatchability of Volcano is like close to a 0. Like, I don't ever feel the need to rewatch this movie again. Whereas I didn't give the Wraith a big score.
Love the Wraith,
but it has some rewatchability value.
That's a 9
to it, right? It's just, you should relax there, big guy.
I love the Wraith.
Easy, pal.
I love the Wraith.
Right? So in that way we could say, hey, objectively, was it a good movie? No. Was it entertaining and would I watch it again? Sure could. Does it stack up against Schindler's List? Not a chance.
No.
Right? And so it's hard. It's hard to give an objective view of a movie, but also, you know, give it some sort of redeeming quality of, hey, it was entertaining and I'd rewatch it, but it's bad.
And then for these movies, it's really hard because when they're middle of the road, like, I don't really have a strong opinion on it. So for me, it's a 5.2. If you dip below 5 for me, that means you're kind of getting on my nerves and I don't like you. So 5, low 5s is, I understand this isn't a good movie, but I'm not completely mad at it. But I don't need to watch it again.
You weren't good. You weren't the worst. You didn't need to happen.
And that's where we land on 1997's Volcano, folks. Are you glad that you are back with the Just Play It podcast? Because we're coming in hot every week.
You could say we didn't lava that movie. But that's the kind of comedy you can come to expect out of these two consummate professionals.
And if you want more of that comedy, you should follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Just Play It Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Just Play It Pod. You can also join us next week as we get into a movie that we both literally have no idea what the hell it's about. To drop a little hint, if you're familiar with the PhD possessing Dr. Steve Brule, I imagine this is how he would pronounce the word cool.
I think it's also one of the bigger bombs of the last 40 years.
I don't know if it can hold a candle to the adventures of Pluto Nash, but we won't find that out until we get there next week. Thank you for listening. Keep it sassy, keep it spicy, stay hot, my Colonel dogs, and pop off underneath this volcanic heat.
What an outro, my friend.
I don't know what I'm saying. Heading gone. Here we go. Thanks for listening. Watch out for that lava.
Catch you later, corn dogs.